born next to a camel. You were born on the street.
Really?
I was born next to a camel. So I don't know which one is better.
I'll take the goats and the stretchers roll. I'm good.
Yeah, we'll have to find and see where Rhonda was born, you know. Well, you know, I came here at a very young age in the U.S., so I'm what you call is an immigrant. But nowadays we have, you know, there's a difference between immigrants and refugees. And I think people don't really realize that there is a difference between the two. As an immigrant, that when we came over, we were planning to come. We had applied for the paperwork. We had applied to come to the USA. And so my family had studied about it. We knew exactly where we were coming to, what we were going to be in for, everything. Versus the refugees that I'm working for now with Syria, they were never planning to come to the U.S. They were never planning to get out of their country. They loved their country and they wanted to stay. But because of war and what was happening in their own country and what was happening to their kids, they decided that they needed to go. And one of the things that Sister Mohammed said is that you wouldn't be leaving and you wouldn't go on land and you wouldn't go into a boat unless you really had to leave. And a lot of these people, one of the things that SCM does, which is my NGO, is that we end up working with the refugees. So we were in Greece and we were on the island of Lesbos. So when the Syrians were coming through, they had come out of Syria wearing whatever they had. They didn't carry anything with them. I mean, they were just totally desperate at all. And they got to Turkey, and from Turkey, they were taking the boats across to go to Lesbos. And you had, I don't know what you call these guys, that were propositions saying, okay, we can get you over there for $1,000 or $1,500. And the trip is like going between Seattle and Bainbridge, all right? But it would take these guys 8 hours. They were in these boats. And so we would be on land waiting for these people to come in. You had women that were pregnant. We had a woman that actually delivered right on the boat. Boats would take maybe 30 people, and they would put 100 people on these boats. They're all on top of each other. These boats, the people would sink, they'd die, we would have everything. And I don't think the media or anyone actually knew or anything about it until they saw the picture of this young kid, Kurdi, that was left on the shores. And then everybody sort of woke up. So what these guys as refugees have to deal with is they're coming to a place they have no idea, but they're told that Europe and the US is open arms and they're willing to take them in and they're going to help them. They land on these shores, and the Greek government at the time did not want them in, so it was just very difficult for them. So we would help them, get them out, we would give them hygiene kits and whatever, and they'd start walking up to Europe until the Europeans closed everything down. So all borders were totally closed. So when they would get to the Macedonian-Greek border, they weren't able to cross. They were left there. So their home became a tent with whatever supplies or anything people would give them. I mean, they had, their idea of home is wherever their family was, wherever other members of their family would be. And to them, it's like, okay, and we would ask them, well, what do you have? What do you want to do? Where are you going to go? What's going to happen? And they would have maybe some remnant of home they brought with them, whatever they could grab as fast as they could. And for the Syrian refugees, we found out that what they would grab is a little bottle of dirt, because home was where the land is, where they could grow things, where their crops was, whatever. You have the Palestinians, when they left and were kicked out of Palestine, and were running, their idea of home and their remembrance of that was a key to their house, because they always planned to go back and they always planned to use that key to get back in. So everyone would take whatever you could. And I do a lot of talks at schools around here, and I ask the kids, if something happened to you, what would you grab? What is the first thing that you would take with you? You know, if you had you had like 5 minutes to get out. And it's interesting. Some of the kids say, I'll take my cell phone. You know, like, wow. You know, the other kids would say, yeah, but it won't work. You know, you have a place to plug it in. Another would say, I'll take some water. Another would say, I'll take my animal. It was very interesting to see all the items that these kids would take. You know, they never mentioned that, oh, we're going to come back home. It was totally different concept for Westerners, because I think families are so split up. Everyone is all over the place that it's no big thing to move. Well, for us from the Middle East, it is a big thing. I mean, home is where your grandparents, your great-grandparents, whatever, they've all been there. I mean, you're on the same land. You're probably living in the same place. I mean, you know who your neighbor is. You know what you can do, anything. But here, people don't know their neighbors. I mean, that's it. You just don't know whoever is there. I mean, there's a proverb in Arabic that says that, you know, before you buy a house, you find out who your neighbors are. Okay? You don't buy a house because you like the house. You want to really check around and see who's living next to you or wherever else. Are those going to be people that you're actually going to deal with or have anything to do with? You know, it's a very different concept at all. So a lot of the families and the refugees that we have here, they all want to go back home. You'll find anytime you have a conversation with anybody, even Sister Mohammed here, and you'll hear it with Rena and whatever, we always say, oh, back home we would do this. We've been here 30 years, 40 years, but it's still back home. We still consider that home, no matter what. And the people I deal with when I'm back in the Middle East, living in Syria, whatever, is I associated mostly with Americans. And why? Because they would understand where I'd come from on this part of the world. They would understand some of the foods. I wanted tacos. Well, nobody knew what tacos were, you know, and stuff. And so they, at that time, it was like, I'll get these Americans, they'd understand the movies, the books, and whatever else I was reading. I live here in the U.S. Who do I associate with? Arabs. You walk into my house, it's an Arab house. That's why it's like a museum. You eat my food, it's all Arab food. If people, the traditions that I was told by my parents, is if someone says they like something, we go out and we give it to them, and they put it on and wear it. I was at a talk at Bellevue Museum last week, and a woman said, oh, I love your scarf. I took it off and gave it to her. She says, what are you doing? I said, that's what I was taught. You know, I was taught to do that. That was it. I mean, that's just, see, so that's why I don't really know where I belong. I mean, and one story is that when I first went back to Jordan after being here for quite a while, I went to Jordan, my uncles picked me up, and it's not like one person picks you up. It's a whole village comes out, you know, and you got like 500 people, and don't know all their names, but you know, you're one person, I know me, that's it. And so my uncle picks me up and says, okay, we have to go visit your other uncle because his wife just died. I said, okay. So I said, well, and he kept telling me, this is what you have to say when you get there. And it's Salam Rasak, may God bless your head. So all the route on the way, I'm saying Salam Rasak, right? I get up to the damn house, we knock on the door, and they open the door, and this is like the first day of the funeral, which everyone has to be quiet. You just go give condolences, but you don't talk or whatever. Well, I said Salam Tizak, which means God bless your ass. How is the head and the ass? Sorry. And so the people inside, we're supposed to be quiet, are just laughing. And they're going, why? The daughter of Isa just arrived from America. So I'm given an excuse for what I've done. You know, so that's why I say I got a foot in both worlds. I mean, I get myself into so much. I mean, I do business dealings, I do other things in the Middle East, but I sort of forget at times. I mean, another time I was driving in a car with the Minister of Water in Jordan, and I was thanking him for, I don't know, a whole bunch of stuff and whatever else. So I leaned over in the car to give him a kiss in Jordan. Well, police came, I got arrested. Yeah, don't do that in public. Because if you're married, you do that at home, right? If you do it in public, it means you're going to do something else. So you can imagine me calling my relatives and saying, Uncle, I'm in jail. I said, you just got here from America. How can you be in jail? Well, I kissed so-and-so. Yo, oh my God, that was the worst thing. Because I had been, my family when I was 16 tried to get me married to this guy, but I didn't want to get married to him. And so the families that were tribal in Jordan, so it was a big tribal thing, and so his family said, he didn't want her when he came. My family, to save face, she didn't want him. So now all of a sudden we're in Jordan together and I kissed him and we're both in jail. You can imagine what the tribes were doing at that time. Wasn't very good. And stuff. And, it's, Jordan's very tribal. It's very, very tribal country. So everybody knows everybody. It's very, very hard to be able to run away. And like I said, I was always rebellious of everything. I mean, I grew up here, but I really, I loved it. I wanted the Middle East. I mean, that was still my home, even though I'd been here since I was 5, which makes no sense that someone would, that I should be more American in a sense. So when I ended up getting married, I ended up getting married to a man that was half Muslim, half Jewish, and I'm Catholic. So the whole Middle East combined together in one thing. Well, my family didn't like it, so they disowned me totally. I mean, they wouldn't have anything to do with me. In the U.S., and in Seattle in particular, you had, at the time when this was taking place, we had a small Arab community. And they all sort of, the community here was a Christian community, mostly, that came in. The Muslim community didn't start really coming in until the 70s, and that was to go to university. So I was going to be the bad girl that nobody could actually deal with, or their kids couldn't come and see me or have anything to do with me because I was going to do it. So members of the community would come out to my house, and they would do a shiva and pull off their clothes and pull their hair and whatever else. I was dead, that was it. But I still considered that was home and this was home. So I really was a mixed up kid, didn't know where I was. And as I've gotten older, I think I'm the oldest one on this panel, it's more wanting to be back there. And so my NGO and dealing with the Syrians, because I'd lived in Syria for 10 years, it really made a difference in my life, and I wanted to be here, and I love the people, but I want to help them, and I want to help them go back, and I want to help them realize that, what they consider home, because these guys are so lost here. They're so lost. They don't fit like they belong. It's like how I said when she got off the plane, you have an image of America. You have an image of what the U.S. is through the movies and through books. So money grows on trees. It's not going to be hard. Everyone's going to be here to help you. And they get here and they find how difficult life is. That, the government gives you 3 months assistance, and after 3 months, you're on your own. So how do you handle language, finding a job, getting your kids, learning how to go to a grocery store, doing anything, in 3 months? Think of any of you guys, if you went back to the Middle East or someplace, and they gave you 3 months, we'll pay you for 3 months, and after that, you're on your own, Try and find a place. You're yawning, you guys. Are you trying to tell me that I'm boring? I mean, right. But that's okay. I think I'm pretty much done, right? It's time limit?
Oh, I haven't been paying attention.
Okay.
Were you talking?
I could keep on and keep on. That's the problem.
I haven't been tracking the time. You're fine.
You're good.
Okay. Huh?
You're good.
I can go. know, we're used to taking orders. I mean, well, that's it. We have to do what everyone says to learn. So, anyway, but I love being here, and I love being able to do the things I do. But I don't, believe it or not, after over 50 years or so of being in this country, I don't still consider it home. It is not home to me. It's still too foreign. You know, there's still things that I'm learning every day here, and I think it's made it worse with Islamophobia, with having Trump, with having all the new rules and laws that have come up, that I don't feel like I'm welcome. You know, I mean, I had a girl that, beautiful young girl that's half Japanese and Afghani, and she goes, you know, when people tell me or take a double look at me, I'm trying to figure out, are they looking at me because I'm beautiful, and she is gorgeous, or they're looking at me trying to tell me, what the hell are you doing here? Go home. You know, that's not a very comfortable feeling to be in, you know, at all. And, you know, and I'll give you one more story and then I'll sit down. When we first came, we landed in Boston first. And then it was snowing and it rained, and we had never seen snow before in my life, you know. So my family said, let's go. And the host family that brought us said, they sent us to Idaho. And we were in Pocatello, Idaho. And if anyone knows Pocatello, Idaho, it's a very small town. A tavern at one end and a school at the other end. So we said, okay, you know, we'll try it here. The church found out that we're from the Holy Land, so they invited my father to come and speak. So after the service, he got up on the podium to give a talk. And so he talked about the Middle East and whatever else. And then afterwards, they had a Q&A. At the Q&A, they asked him, we heard Arabs have tails. And, you know, my dad, who was quite a joker, he turned around on the podium, pulled down his pants, and said, do I have a tail? We ended up staying 2 more weeks in that city. You know, and you have to figure this came out in 1956, and we made the front page of the newspapers. Do things have changed now? No, that's what's really scary. That's what's really scary. I mean, from 1956 to 2018, and we have stuff like this that's still going on. So I can't consider it home.